Will you be able to use gold if the brown stuff hit the fan and we went back to a gold standard, gold barter exchange? You'd probably be best off having something like this, which is gold casting grain. You'd be able to maybe go down and use one little bit to buy your groceries. Or maybe you'll have some coins and you'll be able to use it to buy a car or buy a house. I don't know. I'm not particularly fond of the idea of using gold as a barter exchange tool because I've seen what potential it has over a longer period. Getting your wealth from one piece of history to the next is what gold is all about. And you can see this coin here has doubled in 6 years. That's what gold is best for, not being used to buy your groceries if the brown stuff hits the fan. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another precious metal ramble. Now today I want to focus on the practicalities of gold if there was a complete collapse of Western financial institutions and the dollar and the pound and the euro, etc., and we were in a gold barter economy, maybe like Zimbabwe just has done. We all go back on the gold standard. Will we be able to use this stuff as actual currency? Or is that just all a little bit of fear-mongering and made-up kind of sentiment of where people want the world to be? Why you would want the world to be in that situation, I don't know. But there's a lot of rhetoric about it in this world. And maybe, just maybe, we should all have little bits of gold grain like this so that we can buy our groceries with a micro fraction of a gram of gold. Lot to get through in today's video, and I know it's probably going to split opinions. I have done a video like this in the past talking about the collapse of the Venezuelan bolivar, and that was one of my most hotly watched and contested videos. So I want to know your thoughts on this. I might be wrong. I probably will be wrong if the world does go to complete brown stuff hit the fan scenario, but that's okay. It's all about learning. So please share your comments down below. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to subscribe, then the subscribe button as well, because over 75% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, which is a crazy metric. Now, on with the videos. So, all-time highs for gold right now, which is looking rather good, of course. And with that comes a lot of real-world questions from people about whether or not now is the right time to sell some gold, profit take. You know, if you're in this to have a bit of money on the side and make a little bit extra with an investment return, then having some profit made, certainly on a coin like this right now, which is probably sitting around the, I don't know what the exact value of these are right now, but probably around the sort of £1,800 mark. And you can see I've doubled my money on it in a short space of time. I say short space of time, it was over 7 or 8 years. But the point here is, should I get rid of it and make that profit, realize that gain? Or is it better to think about holding this for that brown stuff hit the fan scenario? So in my own situation as a gold stacker and collector investor, I have first-hand experience of seeing what happens over a long period of time now. I have gold coins, as we can see here. The camera over focuses again. Bought this from Hatton Garden Metals back in December 2017 for £945. And as I say, I reckon it's probably worth about £1,800 just in gold value right now. So I have the luxury of seeing what happens over a long period of time. And I think that's where my bias comes into reflecting on whether or not this stuff will be very practical if that brown stuff hits the fan. Will we actually be able to use gold and silver in a kind of everyday society? I would be hard-pressed to imagine using large sums of gold like this in a brown stuff hit the fan scenario. I mean, what are you going to do with it? You're going to buy a house? Nobody's want to buy a house, sell a house in a apocalyptic post-war scenario, for example, or in a zombie apocalypse. That's just not going to be practical. It's definitely got a place and a role to play as a kind of barter economy, but in a kind of complete brown stuff hit the fan scenario, you can definitely reflect that gold isn't really going to get you that much. It's good to have it, and you go, okay, well, you've got some food that I want, I've got some medicine that you want, perhaps we just have an intermediary of gold and then I can go and buy what I want from that guy down the road. That's what currency is all about. But will it be gold? Does it have to be gold? Probably not. It might well be silver as well. But realistically, the practicalities of that are so far-fetched in my mind, and maybe that's just because I've been completely sort of westernized, so to speak, about financial institutions, but I could be wrong, who knows? I don't really want that scenario to happen, and I said at the beginning of the video, if you want the kind of collapse of the world to happen and to use gold and silver in that extreme scenario, then it's a little bit I don't think there's really any point in worrying about it because we'll all be vaporized in the first rounds of nuclear attacks. Now, the other sort of practicality thing, if the sort of dollar and the pound fails, that's another big one that everyone says. The pound is going to zero, the dollar is going to zero, gold and silver will be the only viable option going forwards. We've got some real world examples to draw on as to what happens when that happens if a currency collapses. So the Venezuelan bolivar and the Zimbabwean dollar, both of those basically went to zero. And we saw that people were able to prepare, if they could prepare, with gold and silver, and they were then able to get by somewhat with gold and silver. So there's definitely an argument to be had that if there's a sort of an isolated instant of your home nation's currency collapsing, that you will still be able to kind of get by with your everyday life, everyday requirements in life, if you use something other than the currency that you've got. And if that currency is backed against something else that's in this world, then all the better, and gold is one of the best things to do that. But that's sort of an isolated instance. We can't really relate fully to, say, the Venezuelan bolivar collapsing compared to the US dollar. The US dollar collapses completely. That will have profound impacts on the entire world's economy, not just the US, but the entire world, and of course on gold as well, because gold is backed by the price of the dollar, or the value of the dollar, I should say. So that's the wrong phrase. Backed. Probably people are going to call me out in the comments there. You know what I mean. The value of gold is priced in dollars. So if dollars go to zero and inflate away, then an ounce of gold will be worth $100 million. Then that has an effect on lots of other currencies around the world. And we'll see how that would work in terms of like what an ounce of gold would be worth in pounds if the pounds hadn't collapsed. But I do genuinely believe that if we see those currencies, the pound, the euro, the dollar, go to zero, then there are bigger problems in the world to worry about than just having those little bits of gold and silver. So I think I'm not a prepper, and I know a lot of my viewers might well have different sentiments on this based on their experiences in their upbringing, basically. In America, it's a very much more common thing in America than it is in Britain to prepare for those worst case scenarios. I'm not a prepper. I don't have rounds and rounds of magazines of rounds, in my basement. I don't have tin food ready to go. I don't have a go bag. We have, of course, gold and silver, but I don't prepare for it to be in that scenario. It's about having it to go through rough patches and come out on the other side in a much better shape than you were before. And that's the only real benefit I feel to holding gold right now. So back to that original question of, well, gold right now is at all-time highs. Is it a good time to maybe look to sell that gold? And the answer would be probably hold on to it, because there could be some more turbulent times ahead. If I'm wrong and the world does completely collapse, then we'll have something. The Backyard Bullion household will have some form of money on the other side of it, whatever that might look like. If we survive the nuclear apocalypses that I would imagine would come if there was a kind of complete collapse of westernized global society and the dollar and the pound, etc. Would we have something at the end? Of course we would. We'd have gold, we'd have silver, we'd be able to actually use that as a barter exchange tool. But in that intermediary period where we're going through the nuclear apocalypse, I mean, let's not kid ourselves, it's not going to happen, is it? So I get that there's a lot of people who feel strongly about this, that they want to have that gold and silver for that eventuality, but realistically, this is getting to my point now. I've rambled for 8 minutes to get here. The only reason that I stack gold is to transport wealth through time into a period where you can ride out some rough patches, basically. And that's what we've been going through over this last sort of 4.5, 5 years post-COVID. So looking from the first, 4 years really, from early December when things really started to go bad for the world. Then we've come through, of course, inflation, we've come through cost of living crises, and a whole host of other things, wars, global geopolitical situations, the Donald Trump presidency, and now potentially a second presidency as well. There's going to be a lot of very interesting things to look at going forwards for gold, and I feel like right now, you've only got to look at the reasons why gold is high right now, despite all of the other factors, which I heard it spoken on the telly actually the other day. I was on the BBC and they were saying gold is at all-time highs, and some analysts are impressed with gold's performance, considering it's basically marching into a headwind of the prospect of interest rates coming back down, and we've also got interesting jobs data coming out. Economy is doing pretty well generally, and all of these indicators should suggest that gold should be not quite as high as it is, yet it still is high, which says to me that there is potential sentiment for things to be lower maybe at some point in the future, but right now there is sentiment that things need to be high for a reason. So that's where I think we are with gold. Now, should you go out and prepare for the worst? If you want to sell gold right now, you're going to probably not get the best prices for it. So is it, well, I say you're going to get good prices, but you're not going to get really good prices relative to spot. There are dealers out there who have just been buying and buying and buying because the public have come to them asking to sell and sell and sell, but the dealers can't resell it very easily, so they offer a lot less than spot price to buy it. I will be doing a price comparison video again at some point in the near future, so we'll see how things have changed, if at all, but right now it's a tough market, and it's a tough market if you're a private seller as well. People are selling gold on social media at 5% under spot and it's not selling. It depends on the gold. If it's capital gains exempt gold, it's more popular, but it's really hard market. So one would kind of imagine as well that if there was a situation where gold really explodes upwards because the pound or the dollar is collapsing, how are you going to get the money out? You're probably going to struggle to get the best value for it. You might find someone, but you're probably going to have a lot less in your pocket than you might have expected. So yeah, there we have my thoughts on gold as a kind of barter exchange token. What I will say is if you are going to look at getting into gold now, or if you've got a bunch of gold right now, you might want to consider looking to liquidate some of the bigger pieces. So a lot of my gold that I have in my stack is of the 1 ounce size and up. I've got a lot of 1 ounce gold Britannias, Queen's Beasts, etc. And those right now are super impractical to sell. If you want to try and sell one of these, if I want to realize some profits on these particular coins, I can get some nice returns, as you can see, but they are not easy to sell. People don't have the cash, don't have a spare £1,900, £1,800 lying around to buy them. Sovereigns, on the other hand, and half sovereigns, those are flying off the shelves at the right price. Throwing my sovereigns around. And if you can get them at a low price to begin with and sell them, so this one, 133.61, right now a half sovereign is like 220 quid. So this one's done very well over that time period. Lots of fractional gold, that's what I would say is my best tip. And if you have a bunch of higher denomination gold, then it might be worth thinking about liquidating it and then rebuying at a fractional point of view. I wouldn't go and buy gold grain though. If you're in the market for an apocalypse, this stuff, not very practical. You can't test it easily, you can't weigh it easily. Have you got scales that are that accurate in an apocalyptic scenario? Probably not. You're not going to be able to handle that particularly easily. You're going to lose little bits of it, and considering each little grain in here is, 30, 40 quid, you lose one little grain of that, or a couple of grains of it, and you're really kind of losing out. So not particularly practical, gold grain. I've kept this for a rainy day. I've got 1.1978 ounces of it here, and one day I will pour it into a gold bar for myself. I just haven't found the time or the equipment to go and find a completely sterile, silver-free zone to make a gold pour that I want to get assayed. So that'll happen at some point. If you're in the Backyard Bullion Rambling Society or the Cool Kids Club member, let me know what you think about me pouring some gold again. I do have the urge and the itch to do it. I just haven't really found a time to do it, but it'd be good to know what you think down in the comments. So a huge thank you to my ramblers once again for listening to the back end of my video, and to the Cool Kids Club members. You are super extra special cool. Like super extra special cool. We love you. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next one. As always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.